Many people, when they go through divorce, feel physical sickness, physical heartache, like their heart has been stabbed and a knife has literally been turned around in their chest. It's actually a really normal response to have that real visceral somatic trauma response following a divorce. So any kind of trauma that we go through can produce that, but the feeling that is associated with that sick feeling is often produced when we have a huge shock response. So we didn't expect this trauma that has just hit us, and that visceral feeling comes with that. So why does it happen? What can you do about it? Let's take a look. So first things first, that real surge of adrenaline that happens with a shock response, that surge of adrenaline will often produce a corresponding surge in cortisol, which is the stress hormone. You'll also have dopamine and serotonin neurotransmitters that will go out of whack at the same time. And when we get a flood of dopamine, dopamine can kind of flood our system when we have a heightened adrenaline response. And when it kind of gets overrun, it can then crash. So people in the initial stages following a shock like that can go through a big surge of adrenaline, big dopamine rush, big cortisol reaction, and then it kind of gets, the system will always try to tend towards homeostasis. It can get overrun and then it can crash, and then we can't get out of bed and we can't do anything. We have that lethargy. So a lot of actually balancing this stuff out is about lifestyle adjustments and changes that you can make. So the first thing, really watch eating of sugar. Sugar is a massive dysregulator of our neurotransmitters and our cortisol stress hormone. It also can dysregulate our fidgetiness, agitation levels within our system. So that kind of scratchy feeling that we have is a combination of dehydration and heightened sugar levels within the body. The next thing is to really kind of watch and curb how much, how many stimulants you're having. So how much coffee and kind of adrenaline responding foods and foodstuffs that you're ingesting. Not helpful to drink tons and tons of coffee during something like this, because it will dysregulate your system. It's much better to have some herbal teas and to hydrate with lots of water. Next thing to watch out for is alcohol. Alcohol, it has an initial numbing response. So it is, I certainly have noticed, like if I have a glass of wine, nothing de-stresses me faster than from the first sip to the second sip to the third sip. It's just like that immediate reduction of stress, which is probably why people drink alcohol. But the problem is that you pay a high cost for that initial reduction of stress, because it's only a perceived reduction of stress, because whilst it's doing that, it's actually increasing your cortisol levels simultaneously. So during going through something like this, the most important thing is to try to be clear-headed so that the decisions you make, you don't regret later on. To do that, you need to kind of really curb your cortisol reaction, your adrenal, and get your adrenals back in line. So reducing alcohol intake or cutting out alcohol completely as you're going through this is the best advice I can give you. Just go cold turkey, and trust me when I say whatever alcohol you were going to drink, just triple up on your water intake, because all that kind of stress reaction that we're experiencing is also quite dehydrating and taxing on the system. So that's what you should cut out. What you should do instead, firstly, exercise. Exercise is a massive mediator of stress and cortisol. It just gets all that kind of nervous system energy out of the body. 20 to 30 minutes of exercise, steady state exercise is great for releasing cortisol. So if you can't go for a walk outside or a bike ride outside, just hit the gym, put your treadmill up to like incline of 12 or so, and just do a steady state kind of 3 mile an hour or 4.2 kilometer an hour type walk. And just walk like that for 30 minutes. Put on something on your iPad or your phone so you can watch that and get distracted. But just get a little bit of like heart rate going and release that stress that you have experienced. If you can't get out and about and you want to hit the gym in a different way, Weight training is also really important. That can really help mediate that stress response and get the body back into homeostasis. Next thing is your protein intake. Protein is really important to kind of not only to modulate systems within your body, but also just kind of help get the body back into homeostasis. So when we're under stress and increasing protein, it can be really, really helpful. Next thing is focusing on eating more fiber, fruits, vegetables, particularly green and vegetables, your spinaches, your kales, your broccolis, very helpful during this time. And removing things that can cause inflammation. So, a year or so ago in 2022, the Umbrella study came out that actually debunked the serotonin link to depression. So what they really found is that serotonin doesn't cause depression. So having a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, an antidepressant, doesn't necessarily reduce depression for everybody. What an SSRI actually does is it just makes you feel nothing. Now, for people that are experiencing acute, strong stress responses, huge major depressive disorder, strong mood conditions, an antidepressant is a good thing to live on, actually. There have been studies that have shown that that is a good thing for you. But to just, while you're going through a very, very traumatic time, to be going on an antidepressant, whilst it can help for about 6 months, beyond that, human beings are not really wired to live without any feelings at all long term. So unless you want to kind of curb really, really dark feelings, then it's worth it for you. Go for it in the short term. Go for it up to 6 months or so. But have a plan with your psychiatrist that eventually there will be some kind of healthy tapering program to kind of get the body again back into homeostasis. So if you need an antidepressant, go for it. But what actually mediates depression the most is to remove inflammation from the body. So inflammatory causing foods and nutrition and chemicals within our environment, curbing that during this stressful time is going to be really helpful for you. So, most people have like a slight weirdness, when their body's under stress. They might not tolerate gluten as well. They might not tolerate dairy as well. I'm not about to tell you what you can and cannot eat, but check in with your own body. How does your body react to certain foods? It might be that you're not tolerating coconut that well at the moment. If you find yourself not agreeing with it, just remove it for a few weeks and see how you feel. You might find that during this time, actually removing gluten actually makes you feel better in your system. Again, check that out with your nutritionist or your doctor. Having balanced meals is important, but sometimes just making sure that you reduce stress, reduce inflammation from your body, it's going to help you feel better and it's going to help your mood improve over time. The other things that are important is to look at how are you resourcing yourself. So the level of stress that we can actually experience as human beings is very much curbed by how much we are resourcing ourselves. Are we, can we handle the amount of stress that we're under? So what are your daily routines? You've looked at exercise, you've looked at foods, but how are you de-stressing during the day? Are you breathing well? Are you, remembering to give yourself some kindness and self-compassion during the day? Have you got mindfulness kind of breaks during your day? Have you got certain routines that you can put in place to kind of just take a breather, relax, and feel better during the day? So we have lots of these kind of components within our emotional freedom program, and we've built our emotional freedom program to really help people, not just with the early acute stages of this kind of shock and trauma, but also when you've been long down the line and maybe all that initial hectic response has depleted and you're now completely lacking motivation and energy and you feeling a bit blah about everything in life. Also helpful there. There's many different changes that you can make to your life to actually change and get over this particular kind of trauma. So that's why people feel that kind of strong physical ache. those are some things that you can try. And if you're still struggling, subscribe to the channel, watch some of our other videos, and book a clarity call with myself or somebody on our team, and we can talk you through some of the other components and things that you can think about. All right, take care.